It's a very interesting one, this. It's about a new bill making its way through the National Assembly. Well, it's ignited intense debates across Nigeria. Lawmakers in the House of Representatives have proposed a constitutional amendment setting a 60-year age limit for presidential and gubernatorial candidates. Supporters argue that the bill would promote youth inclusion in governance, ensuring fresh ideas and leadership. However, critics say it is discriminatory, unconstitutional, and an attempt to sideline experienced politicians.
And so you can imagine the public backlash has been swift, with many questioning whether age should be the primary criteria for leadership. And so to dissect the implications of this bill, we're joined by two guests. Adebowale Johnson, he's a political analyst, there we go, to break down the broader impact of this proposal. We're also going to be joined by Mr. Akin Bash. He's an APC chieftain and a public affairs analyst to give us the perspective from within the ruling party. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us, and we appreciate you for coming on this morning for us.
Thank you, and good morning.
Good morning. I understand that we have only you, Mr. Johnson. So let me just get started with you, shall we? Now, this bill has sparked controversy across the country. What's your initial reaction to a proposed 60-year age cap for presidential and governorship candidates?
Thank you very much, and good morning. And well, it's also the Mother's Day today, and so to you as well and all mothers around the world, happy Mother's Day. And so, yes, going to the question, it's interesting, and I find it quite interesting that a bill that, it makes it impossible for the sitting president, Mr. President, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to run for office is quite interesting. To think that there's still a lot of process anyway, but it's quite interesting that we have not too young to run, but there's also a cap. And I have like two stands, to it. One stand is that, yes, if we don't put a cap to it, everybody, even at the time where they're supposed to sort of become elder statesmen and provide advisory and provide wisdom, will still be vying for the office. And we need more agile and energetic Nigerians who have the capacity for the 20 hours, because most importantly, most of the public sector office at that level most likely work 20 hours a day. And so we need people who are more agile, people who are stronger, health-wise and all of that, to lead the nation from the top, down to even local government. So it's okay that we're setting that sort of barrier, but the flip side to it then is that those who have crossed that age barrier, we then need to sort of coordinate them and put them in a pool of people who can provide wisdom and provide advisory for whoever and every other person that is in government.
Supporters have argued that it will encourage younger candidates and prevent career politicians from holding power indefinitely. Do you think so? Isn't this too soon to argue? Because there's something called age falsification.
Thank you. It doesn't encourage younger people beyond the fact that there's a bill already that's called Not Too Young to Run. For House of Assembly level for about 25 years. So it's not about young people vying for office that's the problem. I think that the older generation will not leave a vacuum, and that's why they are still very much active in, running for office. Because, we, the younger ones, have refused to stand up to what it takes. We've refused to show capacity. We've refused to develop ourselves. Sometimes, when you have conversations with some people and you ask yourself, this is not a beer parlor conversation. You would think that you should, you would tell people like, you should know better. I'm sure you've been in conversations like that you'll be like, oh, it doesn't look like we're ready. It doesn't look like we know what we're doing. So it's not about the age, but about, people really putting their heart out and having what it takes. The competence, the capacity, and the capability to do the work on day-to-day basis. So, I mean, these are the things we need. It's not so much about the age, but the strength and what it requires, and it's a lot of work. To the best of my knowledge, and of course, being in the space, the work requires about 20 hours a day. And so if you're not agile enough and you don't have the mental capacity, the health, to make it happen, you're just going to fail.
Well, thank you, Mr. Johnson. We are joined now by Mr. Akin Bash. He's an APC Chieftain and Public Affairs Analyst. He's going to give us his own 2 pence. Mr. Akin, you are welcome. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
It's my pleasure to have me.
Great. So I need you to please talk to the timeline that we find this bill being passed, the speed of it. And if you were listening to Mr. Adebowale from earlier, regarding the possibility of whether it's allowing young people to be able to run or if it's trying to disenfranchise old people, especially at a time where we see coalitions of political bigwigs forming, coming together to try for 2027. So please, to the credibility of the bill, the timing of it, and whether it is going to disenfranchise the old career politicians that we have currently.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me start without hesitation to say that I think putting a gag as to age limit, I think is an unnecessary diversion. I do not think that we need to put a ceiling on what age of people to contest an election. And like the other gentleman said, I think it's a matter of how ready you are. What is your entry behavior? What are the qualities, the requirements and parameters that will have prepared you for this? I do not think we should go extra on constitutional pathway to get people to contest. If you look all over the world, you see that it's a mixed bag. I mean, if you are young and you have what it takes, you have built your integrity, your capability, and your level of acceptance amongst the people, not stop you from contesting. And that you're an elderly person too should not be a barrier for you to contest. After all, experience, is the best teacher. And of course, for the younger ones too, I have always been against the fact that you must put an age limit. Definitely it's not necessary. Let everybody contest in the space. After all, at the various political levels, there are these considerations, to encourage the younger ones to come into political space. And if that is it, then I don't see why anybody should put a barrier as to, those who are above 60 that should not contest. Politics is too dynamic. And when you look at it in our own climate here, whoever is going to rule Nigeria must be vast, must be deep, must have a lot of experience as to the geopolitical, historical, geographical, considerations and the challenges, that the political space, provides. So for me, my position is that age limit is unnecessary. Let whoever is interested come into the space. Yeah, let him compete and imagine play his or our own role.
Mr. Bash,
that is our responsibility in whichever political position the person might have found himself.
Mr. Bash, there seems to be an argument on ground regarding the sense of out-of-touchness, if there's a phrase like that, of the career politicians, regarding the fact that there is a clamor of youth dissent currently. And this is because the youth do not think that they're well represented. You speak to experience, and this is a good thing because in politics, you actually need to have your ducks in a row, like you have just mentioned. But experience is one thing, and to be in touch with reality, with the grassroots, with what the people really want is another thing. These are people who have, plenty of people argue, had their time, and it's a very different time from where we find ourselves now. So do you not think that there is much more credit than what seems to be given to the bill currently?
Yeah, I think, I don't know what you mean by, being out of touch with reality. Being in touch with reality is not a matter of age. It's a matter of your exposure. It's a matter of deliberate attempt to be current at every point in time. Do you know how many youngsters who don't even know what AI is all about? Do you know how many youngsters who cannot even operate the system? Do you know how many youngsters who do not even know what is happening around them? We have a lot of them around these days who have been diverted by irrelevancies, So the matter of whether you are in touch or you're out of touch is not a matter of age. It's a matter of your individual preparation to be current, to also know what is going on all over the world. So for me, it's a non-issue. What is important is the entry behavior of individuals, the preparation, the readiness that an individual puts in. Coming into a political office. It's, for me, it's seen as a career line. And when you are planning your own career, even in whatever, competence area you might be looking at, you prepare yourself for that. So nobody tells you that, you must be in a particular age before you can be current as to what happens in your locality and as what happens at the global stage. Take, for example, I know there are many communities we engage with. And in some of these communities, you see the people who are elderly are still in charge, giving the necessary directive, giving the necessary, direction as to even what these youth you are talking about, what they do. And of course, you also have, it's a vice versa thing. You also have some youths too who have equally developed themselves. So for me, I do not see any barrier as to talking about currency in terms of politics, in terms of socioeconomic developments, challenges. No, it's not a matter of age, please. It's a matter of your exposure and your experience and your readiness to progress and make success within the space that you are trying to occupy.
Mr. Johnson, let me come to you for this next question. And Mr. Bash, you can take a go at it right after Mr. Johnson. But do the both of you think that this bill stand a chance? I mean, from a constitutional standpoint, one can argue that this bill doesn't align with democratic principles, or it could face legal challenges. But more importantly is that the House itself is filled with, one might say, 70% of career politicians. And whether or not we are heading towards an election cycle, it may not pass through a second reading. That's what I reckon. But I want to ask you, do you think it would pass through a second reading or even be signed into law, given the ambitious politicians that we have in our terrain?
Okay, thank you. I mean, will it pass second reading? Second reading is done. It's supposed to, I believe, second reading was just done some days ago. But of course, the process is still very long. And will it see the light of day? I doubt. The reason why I doubt it is just, very plain and very simple. Because whether you like it or not, every sort of possible candidate, and I mean, even this bill, for example, will stop Mr. President from running in 2027. It's supposed to go to third reading, it's supposed to go to the Senate, and it's supposed to, of course, have 2/3 and then go to the State House of Assembly. So, I mean, all of the process before the presidential ascending on it and signing the bill into law will take time. And so would it happen before the next election? I doubt it. And I mean, I'm speaking very plainly to no matter how much it's going to be rushed, there's still going to be a lot of debate. And so some things will slow it down. And it may not happen for 2027. Maybe it will happen towards, it's possible. But I mean, if you ask me from where I sit, that will it generally scale? The answer will be no. Because I mean, the conversation is that many people who have the sort of the experience and of course the capacity to run the nation, and just like Mr. Bash said, what is required for national politics? It's not for young people. It's not for just anyhow person. I mean, just like Mr. Bash just said, and I'll just take my position on it as I've always done, is that the Nigerian youth is a problem of Nigeria. And, you can quote me anywhere. 70% of the Nigerian population is the youth. We are the young people. We are the youth, and we are the ones that sort of hold Nigeria. But yet Nigeria is what it is. So, I mean, what are we doing? Are we doing what we're supposed to do? Go and check all the current politicians. They all have young people around them as essays. So you ask the same question. I mean, you can argue that I've said this, I believe, on this platform and many other platforms, that it's not about the age, it's about the capacity, the competence, and what it takes, the character, the capability. I mean, so many things to look at for. If you have these career politicians with this phase who are young and things are still the way they are, the question is who is feeding them, who is providing data, who is providing advisory for those people, and all of that. And then you can argue it and say they don't listen. But trust me, if you ever be within these people and you sat with them without, biasness, without wearing a cup of the bias or war attack, you will discover that most of what is going on in this country are caused by the young people because we don't know what it takes, and everybody's just greedy. Everybody just want to take for themselves. So the National Assembly has a lot of work to do to make this bill go to pass. But will it scale? Will it ever be ascended to? I doubt it.
Gentlemen, don't we think we're being a bit tough on the younger generation, because they are the future. And they are the future of this country, and they make up, like you said, 70% of our population. They are disruptors by all metrics. They have disrupted every sector that I can think of, whether it is tech, fintech, the social media, fashion, lifestyle, entertainment. They continue to push the boundaries of what's possible. If they're able to do that in their own strata and field, whether it's a financial institution with the fintechs, or with their technology and all of this that they're doing, democratizing these sectors, creating jobs in the way that they've been able to do, disrupting what is supposed to be the norm, don't you think that they can be leaders? Because our politics in and of itself is driven by cash. And the persons who are politicians and who are of the ruling class, what have they really, truly, indeed done that makes them any different from our youth? Are we being a bit harsh on them?
No, so this has been 30 years for me working with young people. I mean, I will always say this, and I pride myself to say it again. I'm the first and only youth performance consultant in the world. And you could just turn that. I mean, I speak to youth, I work with youth to ensure that they have, first of all, self-discovery. Number two, build capacity and build the right habits that can help them to become productive. Now, if you've spoken about a class of young people who are doing stuff, but if you check the number, I mean, I also study statistics in the university. If you check the numbers of those you're talking about, vis-a-vis the general public, you will discover that we are talking about a 1% of the 100%. So
Isn't
I'm
that
not
the same
saying
with...
that all the youth in Nigeria.
Yeah, but isn't that not the same with the elders and the ruling party? Is that I take that back. And like the government elite?
Yeah, so again, I mean, what I just stated to you, to take it further deep, is that who have created this problem is the same, the so-called, career politicians, the older ones. They are the ones that created the problems for us over the years. Basically, number one, by disrupting and killing our educational system. And I've said this since 2005. Dangote,
I'm
the
sorry.
Nigerian
We seem to have an issue with how you sound. We're not able to get you clearly. I don't know if you can check your device. Maybe there's something on the mic because we're unable to hear everything you're saying with good clarity.
Okay, but can you hear me now? Maybe I should speak up a little bit.
Perhaps, but while you're getting that done, let's turn to Mr. Bash. Mr. Bash, there are other bills that were actually being looked at here. There's a second reading of a bill for an act to alter the Constitution to provide for mandatory inclusion of youth and also persons living with disabilities in political appointments. Now, I hear what you said, and I hear what Mr. Adebowale said from earlier regarding the fact that it's not just for the youth, but for people of correct character. But what challenges in the past have stopped the youth from getting these political offices? I'll even bring one to mind. Let's talk about finances. Apart from that, why have the youth seemed to take a back seat when it comes to actually driving, when it comes to the bus that leads politics inside of Nigeria? Mr. Bash, please.
Okay, I'm sure if I get your question right, he's asking why do the youth, go to the backstage when it comes to politics?
The challenges that they face.
I don't want to agree with you, and I'll tell you why. Let's go back into history now. Chief Obafemi Awolowo, Nnamdi Azikiwe, Tafawa Balewa, and all that. They were under the age of 40 or 50 when they were leading this country. So which means that from time immemorial, there has never been any deliberate attempt to shut the youth out. And if you recall what I said, whoever is going to any career must prepare himself or herself well for it, must know what it takes to succeed in a particular career. So if Obafemi Awolowo, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe succeeded at such younger age, then it tells you that any other younger person today can equally succeed. But the question is this: how ready are they? Someone will tell you that power is not served a la carte. I mean, you don't donate power, you don't donate position to people. People prepare themselves, to get that. And if you look at even, the political landscape, you will see that there are some governors, there are some House of Assembly, House of Rep members who are below the age of, some below 40, some below 50. So generally, they are playing their role. I think the challenge is this extrajudicial pronouncement or extra-constitutional recommendation that there should be age limit to it. For me, it cannot even see the light of the day. That's the honest truth. Because when you're talking about this, it means everybody, almost 60, 70% of those who are currently in position of responsibility will not be able to contest. But that's apart from the fact that it's anti-democratic. And on a global level, Nigeria cannot be alone in the Committee of Nations. So for me, for the youth, there are no encumbrances, I can say
Mr.
that.
Bash.
After all,
Mr.
let's
Bash.
even look at the first
Mr. Bash.
road.
Mr. Bash,
Yes,
what about support from the older generation? We've seen plenty players, new players of, the age that you speak of, even younger, enter into the political scene only to be run over by the bigwigs, the people who have the financial capability. What about supporting these youth so that we can see them in higher positions when it comes to the office of politics in Nigeria? We don't see that happening, and that, in a way, is what I'm asking regarding the challenges that the youth face when they enter into politics. It's the fact that they don't have that financial might, and they don't get that support from the experienced politicians who themselves are still vying for these positions but have been there for so long. So talk to us regarding support.
I think saying that they don't have support is overgeneralization. With my own experience in political developments, a lot of elites, a lot of elders support the younger ones. I said earlier, there are political parties that make deliberate policies to say that anybody who's under age 40 will pay half of whatever is the nomination fee. There are some positions, you understand, within political parties, like the councillors, that say, okay, fine, anybody above so age, even in the party constitution is there, are not entitled to contest. But let me say this: why not glorifying the fact of God, Vadarism, and whatever? I know quite well that there are a lot of elders who give their own support to the younger generation. I think what matters is your approach, your ability to weather the storm, and your ability to wriggle within the political waters. Know your onions, know the game, know how to play the game, and know how to solicit support for people. Of course, I know for sure that even at the gubernatorial level, at House of Assembly, at whatever level, there's none of them who are there today that has not gotten one support or the other, you understand, from people. But the point again is that if you look at the political players, and in terms of Nigeria population, what is their number? For us to now conclude that they are so powerful enough not to support the younger ones. I think the space is open, and that's the honest truth. Every player should be able to understand the waters and know how to swim through it. There are supports, I can tell you that.
Thank you, Mr. Bash.
It's not a common thing that they are not.
Mr. Adebowale, do you agree with Mr. Bash in terms of support for younger political aspirants?
I will say partially, because the understanding that I have is that I ran for office twice, and most of it I did with my own personal money and other young people around me supporting me. I got support from the older generation. In fact, to the best of my personal experience was I was used to negotiate rather than, of course, having my position. And of course, the party, the state party chairman did that, to me, and he's not a young man. So the second time around, it was a young lady who was the state chairman of the party. And she fought vehemently for me to, secure my ticket because I actually won the primaries. But again, cheated out because there's an older man who seems and claims to have all the money and, wanted to just be the candidate. So, yes, my own personal experience speaks totally different from support because I can't tell you that I got any support from any other generation. And so, I mean, that's my own experience. I've seen people who have gotten support. The answer is yes. But the question is that those support comes with, just like Mr. Bass said, that sort of drive for, in quote, godfatherism. I dictate what you would do. And this is what we're also seeing playing out in Port Harcourt, in River State, and definitely all around the country at various levels. So for me, I would rather stand back and be very critical with myself to say, do I have the capacity? Can I go the whole 9 yards? And can I, get that support from anyone and everyone, whether old or young? And if I can, then I'll go for it. If I can't, I step back. I would rather support, provide advisory than try to run for office when I can't see success at the end of the day.
All right, Mr. Johnson and Mr. Bash, we're pretty much almost out of time, but I'd like for you to answer this question very succinctly, right? And it's about the focus that we have on this constitutional amendment, which is the age limits, right? But more importantly, the House have been on the campaign for a constitutional amendment. I think about over 100 bills have been scaled through for a second reading. And one of them that was scaled through for a second reading but then pulled back was the age immunity bill, which sought to scrap out the immunity for the president, the vice president, the governor, and their deputies. And so I ask, what should the House, the chambers, both the green and red, be focusing on when it comes to political reforms, accountability, and transparency for the future? I'll start with you, Mr. Bash.
Okay. Thank you very much. You will observe that even their position on immunity for governor and all that, I am aware that they have reversed themselves. And I would not be surprised if they reverse themselves, as far as this age limit is concerned, Concerning the issue you raised, I think that our constitution, our efforts at those chambers should be geared towards getting governance to become more meaningful.
Seem to have lost Mr. Bash. Mr. Johnson, you have the floor.
Yeah. Okay. For me, I think what the House should be looking at is looking out for how to stop corruption. Looking out for how to ensure. If they want to remove immunity from everyone, so that when you know that when you're in office and under your watch, something really, really against the law, something bad against the country, against the law happens, you get punished for it, and it's not until when you leave office after your term, and then you start seeking. It's ridiculous that we have a governor that is standing trial. We're already hearing that he wants to go into the Senate because of immunity. If we know that we don't give protection to public official holders, I think people will run away from going into crime, because this is it's a crime against the nation, against humanity, for you to sit in office and then under your watch, things are going wrong. The nation is suffering. The people are suffering. Well over 200 million people are suffering. People should be punished for such. So if they want to remove immunity to protect people from crime, I think it should be done, of course, at all levels, not just certain levels, protecting one or two officers. So everybody should be able to face the music
All right. Gentlemen, we must say thank you so much for taking out the time to join us this morning and to give us your insight on this proposed amendment. Well, let's see whether or not it was scaled through. But once again, thank you, Mr. Adebowale Johnson, who's a political analyst, and also joining us was Mr. Akin Bash, who is a APC chieftain, as well as a public affairs analyst.